Well, then, what can I say? It is the very first ever, as far as I know it is anyway, podcast with Liverpool Heartbeat. And if you're going to do a podcast with Liverpool Heartbeat, you've got to have the governor. And that is Robin Baines, who's with us. Hello, Robin.
Good evening.
And we're going to be introducing to our special guest in a short while. We'll come back to Sam in a short while. But for the benefit of people watching this podcast for the first time, we need to know a little bit about Liverpool Heartbeat. And we need to know a little bit about you, Robin, because me and you are going to be here every podcast, speaking to some wonderful people, finding out about some of the incredible activities that you guys are involved in. Tell us a little bit about Liverpool Heartbeat and where it came from, if you would, please, Robin.
Well, Liverpool Heartbeat is a charity for children that was set up 2002. A friend died in 2001, Kenny O'Toole, and had to do something special for Kenny. Kenny was a real good competitor. He was a swimmer, same as myself, and we were schoolboy champions together. And then we swam for a boys' club when we left school. And then from that night in Bolton, we lost touch for 30 years. And we'd both gone back swimming at Everton Park. And we were swimming together in the top lane for about a month. Then we got talking to each other, realised we knew each other, and we became best of mates again. And Kenny was in my team when I swam the English Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Captain Webb in your team?
Jimmy Tinsley was. Yeah, Jimmy Tinsley was a very good friend of ours. And when our Barbara died, I was going to have a barbecue in the garden. And Jimmy took me to one side and said, "Rob, can I have a word with you?" So I said, "Yeah, go on, Jim." He said, "Why don't you swim the English Channel?" Well, he could have blew me over. I said, "Jimmy, I'm a 50-metre swimmer. I'm in and I'm out in 30 seconds. I said, "I don't like cold water." He said, "You'll be able to do it." He said, "Pick a team, I'll train you." Well, Jimmy was an open water swimming coach, British swimming coach. So when the word got out, Kenny said, "I'm in your team." So Kenny was the first man in my team. Anyway, Jimmy turned around and said, "You'd be able to raise some decent money." He said, "Be able to raise £20,000. Right. So the Forget Me Not Cancer Appeal had just started. So with Barbara's name, my sister-in-law who died, I went down to the Royal Hospital and I pledged £20,000. Well, what Jimmy gave me was 3 years of hard work.
Right.
We swam the English Channel. We'd done it in a fantastic time, but we'd only raised £10,000. So we had to find ways of raising other money. And one night, my wife, Brenda, said to me, "Why don't you swim across the Mersey, Rob?" I said, "That's a good idea. I'll have a word with Jimmy." So when I spoke to Jimmy, he said, "Well, I've had the same conversation with Bob Jones, another swimmer. I went, let's do it." So that's when the Cross Mersey Swim was formed, the first one. It was a one-off event to begin with in 1994 to raise money, but it became an annual event and we're in its 29th year now.
Wow.
So there's lots of tales about the Mersey Swim, but to move on with Liverpool Heartbeat, unfortunately, Kenny passed away in 2001. Right. So Jimmy and the rest of us, we all got together and we said, right, we're going to do something special for Kenny. We're going to swim from Scotland to Ireland. So
Scotland to Ireland.
So right away, I said, "I'm not doing that one, Jim. Yeah. I'll be the fundraiser. I'll raise 10,000 for the British Heart Foundation." So that was my role in the team, along with another lad called Steve Bullen. So we sorted out the accommodation and the transport costs and that. And Jimmy and Bob Jones, they were the outriders with the 6 swimmers. So there was 10 in the team, 6 swimmers. But the swimmers done a fantastic time and they broke the world record, got in the Guinness Book of Records, and we raised 10,000 for the British Heart Foundation. And that was the very first time I'd called myself Liverpool Heartbeat. Right. So we raised the money under Liverpool Heartbeat. No intentions of starting a charity. But when we were successful, the British Heart Foundation said you can put a defibrillator anywhere you want. So everywhere I went, they had them. So I said, well, I want a bit more than that. I want something tangible, something I can touch, something I can see. So I decided to raise money for a minibus. Another good friend of mine, Ray Park, come on board. And Ray said to me, he said, "How much money are you looking for, Rob?" Well, I'd only raised about 4,000 or 5,000. I said, "I'm 17,000 short at the moment, Ray." So he said, "Well, come to me," and he said, "I'll sort you out." I said, "Ray, it's me, mate. I want to raise the money." So after 12 months, if I haven't raised the money, I'll come back to you. Anyway, 7,000 short. And Ray stepped in with the Formby Hall Vice President's Golf Charity. Right. And topped it up. So we got a minibus. And that minibus, it didn't go to Blackpool or Rill to start with. The Try for Life lads used it. And they went to Austria and competed in the Austrian Ironman. So that was its maiden voyage. And Liam, who borrowed the minibus, Liam Hanlon, is actually at base camp at Everest at the moment. And Liam and I are very good friends. And he started the Try for Life in 2002, the same time as Liverpool Heartbeat. And we helped each other right the way through. and Liam has taken over the Cross Mersey swim. So got a lot to thank Liam for.
Yeah, for definite.
But I've got a lot to thank a lot of people for,
Yeah.
And such as this man sitting next to me.
Well, this is the thing, and as the weeks go on, we're going to find out a lot more about Liverpool Heartbeat, not only because, people want to know how did this organisation come about, but also because, we want people to get involved. We want to know more about it. The more they can find out about the organisation, the better. But one of the most impressive side effects, as it were, byproducts, I should say, of Liverpool Heartbeat are the people that you get to meet. And this gentleman has an amazing story. Tell us about Sam, if you would, please.
Well, Liverpool Heartbeat has got a lot of people that have come on board as volunteers. And I met Sam over 10 years ago. And we only met for 5 minutes. But in that 5 minutes, we knew there was something special about the friendship. And we swapped telephone numbers and kept in touch. And more lately, Sam's been coming on board with Liverpool Heartbeat and helping doing all the different events we do. 6 weeks ago, we were with the elite triathletes, and these are the tops we've got on. I took Sam along. They didn't know I was bringing Sam. Sam gave an inspirational talk to the youngsters. They are the elite triathletes that have been handpicked for future Olympics, possible Olympic medalists. And after Sam gave a bit of an inspirational talk, the first guy went along in the 400. It was in a swimming pool, and they were doing time trials, and he'd done a PB. So, it certainly works, Sam.
Well, Sam, thanks for coming in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sam. Where are you from?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Roy and Robin. Yes, I'm Sam Jalloh from Sierra Leone, obviously, and but I've been a Liverpoolian now for quite a long time. So I've always said that Liverpool is my favorite city in the world, which I totally meant that. And I have this conversation with Roy, even though I live in Southport also, because Southport is the first place I stayed, and I've been there ever since. But Liverpool definitely is the best place for me. So obviously, like I said, from Sierra Leone, played tennis for Sierra Leone, obviously, and I've been in England now for 18 years, and coaching children all around the world. And I've just come back from America, working with an American player, and I also work as a motivational speaker and stuff like that, and also writing books and stuff. So Liverpool Heartbeat has been one of those stories that I always said it was meant to happen. And so when I first met Roy, like you said, we met at the Liverpool City Radio, and he came up to me straight and said, "Yes, what are you doing?" And then we become friends. From that day, I realized that, this guy...
This is Robin.
Robin, and I knew that this is a friendship that is going to last, because everything that Roy talked about is about passion things to help people, to help children. And he said, "I really like your story, and we should meet." So we exchanged numbers, and he's been feeding me ever since. And
he's feeding you. But here's the thing about you, because, obviously we've established that you two are great friends and you're working together in this wonderful charity. What was life like for you being born in Sierra Leone? Because, sometimes in this part of the world we take for granted some of the luxuries, simple, everyday kind of luxuries that we have in this part of the world. It's not necessarily the case in Sierra Leone. What was life like for you?
Life was really tough, because I'm one of 11 children from parents who could barely make $1 a day or £1 a day. So, and I was born in the slum of Freetown, which is a place called Tembe Town, which is 99.99% of the people are extremely poor. When I say poor, like we live in a whole rusty corrugated house, which only have 2 little rooms, about 8 foot by 10 foot. And we had no bed, no electricity, no water. You got rats and mice and snakes and all kinds of things, running into the house at night. And then I got my siblings and friends and cousins that we all slept on cardboards on the floor, which, like I said, to us, those were some of the best time of my life, sleeping with my siblings and friends on the floor. And we also had 1 meal a day, and for drinking water, we have to walk miles to fetch water. And there was no hospital, no supermarket, nothing. And so it was really tough, because my parents, they work 8 days a week. And that's a joke I'm making. When I meant 8 days is they work from Monday to Monday without a day off throughout the year, and they never complain. My dad had about 3-4 jobs, So is my mom, and she works in the jungle and stuff. So life was really tough, and growing with extreme poverty, not enough food, and never had shoes until I was 13. And then also one of the misty thing that happened was before I was born is that my mom lost three boys before me,
Right.
and that is purely because Sierra Leone had the highest mortality rates in the whole world, not just in Africa. And where kids were dying before at birth or before their second birthday, and women dying from giving birth was I think 10,000 a year, which that's quite a lot for only 7 million people by then. So my mom, when she was about to give birth to me, no, when she gave birth to me, she knew I was a boy, obviously, and then they decided to give me a girl's name. And the mystery behind the girl's name was because my mom traditionally believes that there was an evil spirit trying to kill all their male child.
Right.
So in order to protect me from dying or from this evil spirit, so they decided to call me Pore, which is a girl's name. So and then I always said, well, it works because 40 years later, so here I am, still surviving. So life was really tough. Plus then, we had the Civil War as well.
What was that like?
I think, I've just been having this conversation with people like what's going on at the minute in Ukraine, which is terrible. And I've had to say to see, there is no goodness to war, except the people who create the war themselves or who's selling the machine, whatever is going on. But, seeing children in Ukraine at this winter suffering, old people, young people, innocent people are dying, it's something which it brings a lot of bad memories for me because when I was growing up, I remember at 9 years old and not knowing anything about politics or the gold and diamond that we have in Sierra Leone. And then we have this terrible war which lasts for 11 years. And some of the people who suffered the most was the young children who were recruited into child soldiers.
Of course, you'd grow up, your childhood experience
Yeah,
is civil war.
it's
isn't it?
civil war. It's just in my autobiography, How Tennis Saved My Life, there's a lot of description of some of the most brutal things I ever saw, what a human being can do to a fellow human being when they pick up guns and stuff like that. So as a 9-year-old child growing up, that was, it was something that I don't wish in any part of the world for people to go through. So the war, the only lesson the war teach me is to be kind and to love and to care for people, like what Robin is doing about helping, poor people and helping underprivileged, people. Because sometimes I think when people are extremely poor, they're very easy to convince to do certain things.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, go take a knife and stab gun to shoot people. And so those are some of the lessons I've learned. But the war was really tough because, like I said, if you've seen Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio, you see how difficult the war was. And I've been captured a few times, tied, beaten by the soldiers, and thrown into prison. And so many children died, just being shot in front of me and stuff like that. So it was terrible, I can say. That's one of the most terrible thing I think I've ever experienced in my life.
So that being the case, how do you get out? Because I mean, in our part of the world, just saying when you listen to that story,
I know.
I mean, you think just how God, it puts it into perspective, doesn't it? But you think, you might think sometimes childhood can be a bit rough and tumble, but not in the same league as that.
No, it's an unbelievable story that Sam's life's been, and how he's turned out to be such a nice man is unbelievable. And Sam and I have spoke many times about trying to put a knife crime program, anti-knife crime program together, but you can't get a positive out of knife crime. No, we've been in a couple of schools, and Sam's told his tale and turned it into the anti-knife crime at the end to try and reach the young people. But it's trying to stop young people carrying knives.
Yeah.
Because once a crime's been committed and there's a death, well, both sides suffer. Their lives are over.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's trying to get that over to young people. That's one of the things that Sam and I are working on for the future.
Yeah.
That's just another thing that Bill Harpy's are doing.
Indeed. But to come back to your life here, Sam, I mean, you just mentioned there about all of these terrible things that's going on in your part of the world. There is no easy way out of that. And yet, here you are in Liverpool. You're a successful international tennis coach. You've done so much. How did you get out?
Well, it was like I said, sometime in life, I hear people use the word a lot. Life is a roller coaster. One minute you're upside down, the next minute you fast forward, next minute you slow down. So my life has always been like that, and there was never one thing that settled. I keep bumping into one thing to another. So luckily for me, when the war started in 1991, my mom and dad, they separated after so many years. So she moved to a place called Hill Station, and Hill Station is where all the British colonial people used to stay because it's cooler up there. You can get temperature, I think, 8 degrees back in the past, so it gets really cool, and there's less mosquito.
Mm.
So why is they settled there? They built tennis courts, 3 tennis courts for them to like every evening with all the clerks and people, foreign people, go and play tennis. So, and when my mom left my dad, she went moved to Hill Station, and just 10 years from where she stays lies this 3 tennis court that was built by the British in 1904.
Mm.
So there, after I moved in with my mom because I couldn't go to my dad, given the fact that I was adopted at the age of 6 and then run away when I was 9. And but my dad didn't want me to be at home. He wants me to be with my adopted family because he wanted me to have a better education because he was poor and he couldn't afford to keep me in school. So my mom from there, I saw tennis, and then I discovered that the kids who were representing Sierra Leone, they will give them 250 US dollar a national tracksuit. So that's basically changed my mentality, with this sport that I love the sport to start off with, but $250 is like four or
Oh,
five
God.
times way what my parent will earn a year. So
Wow.
I'm thinking if I have that kind of money, I'll be able to feed my family, I'll be able to pay my school fee and do so many other things, plus the national track to which I so dream to wear one of those and go represent my country. So that's how it all started. And there was no tennis racket. We couldn't afford it. We didn't have money to buy tennis ball or stuff like that, but we managed to play bare hand tennis, both bat tennis, anything we can hit a tennis ball with, we did barefoot, 40 degrees, it doesn't matter. So until I was 13, I started playing the nationals, and then 14, 15, the war was taking a toll in the whole country. And eventually in 1998, when my friend was shot in front of me, and that completely changed, my perspective.
Shot in front of you.
It was
What's the story with that?
the story with that was it was on Valentine's Day, February 14, 1998. So I was completely sleeping in my little corner, and then I just had somebody tap me on the shoulder, and they called me PJ at home for Pore Jalloh, and he said, PJ, you got to wake up, we need to leave. So, and then put my clothes on, go out. And when we came out of the house, there was a lot of explosion, bombs flying left, right, and dogs barking, and soldiers running up and down, shooting, and so we just wandered to the tennis courts outside, and we stood there trying to think, where to go because with all this craziness going on. And then whilst we stood at the tennis courts, another friend ran down and said, Sam, PJ, sorry, do you want to see the bomb explosion on this side? So I took a few steps away from him. And then all of a sudden, I had a rapid AK-47 behind me. And then when I turned, my best friend Alimami has been shot multiple times on his chest.
Wow.
So run up to him and watch my friend, screaming and gasping for air. And that was the time when I totally realized that, I'm not invisible, and I need to put my act together because this was my best friend who has helped me to play tennis, and he wanted the best for me. I always describe him as an, like a meteorite that just, you see them 1 minute and then they go, the flashing star. He was my guiding angel for those few years we lived together, and he helped me greatly. And after that, I saw my mom stood there looking at me. Tears was running down her eyes, and I was crying. And I decided from that day on, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to be more careful and make sure that I do everything not to give up. So after that, in October of 98, I had the opportunity to play and represent Sierra Leone, and which I did. But one of the things that helped me to get through was because I thought about my friend Halimami, that I was doing that purely for him, not just for the $250 on my tracksuit. I wanted to help him, and I want him to be in heaven, look at me and very proud because if there's one person who would have wanted me to be better in tennis, it was him. So, and then eventually I came through and I got the national tracksuit. I got way more than $250. And, you know, I gave my mom $150 to sustain the family for about 6 months. So, and then paid my school fee, and I end up giving my dad $50, which he was completely happy. And I remember before when I told my dad, in fact, that I want to play tennis, and I said, his exact word was, son, if I ever see you play the rich white man sport, I'm going to cut all your fingers.
Wow.
And like I said, he wanted me to be educated. He wanted me to be a doctor, not to go and be batting tennis ball, which was not popular to, you know, the native people of Sierra Leone at that time. So it was me trying to defy my dad and all the odds, and then I ended up playing tennis. So as they said, in December of that year, I went to represent Sierra Leone in Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. And as they said, the rest is history.
I mean, that is an incredible story, and I'm sure there are so many other aspects of it that we could explore. But the thing is, from your point of view, Robin, I mean, we know that you're a motivational speaker, and because of the nature of what you do with Liverpool Heartbeat, you need to be able to motivate people, to encourage them, because you're talking about people who might be feeling a little bit kind of, hey, what can I do here? And your organisation is about changing people's perceptions, getting them out there to do something like that. How much of an asset to Liverpool Heartbeat is having somebody like Sam on the books, as it were?
Yeah, it's a big asset, especially when we go into schools. Like, we've just been into a behavioural school up in Holton.
Yeah.
And to hold these young people's attention for 5 minutes is a miracle. Sam was taking small groups, 5 or 6 young people, and was holding their attention for well over 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And the feedback from the school was unbelievable. And it'll be like that in every school we go to, you know. Hopefully, Sam travels the world. He's been to nearly 100 different countries, and he's off again in May. And that's why I brought Sam in first, because he's going to be in the United States of America next month, and won't be able to get hold of him. So Sam's jumped the queue. And I think it's a great opener for Liverpool Heartbeat.
So how did you, I know we obviously had this conversation at the beginning. I mean, where did you when did you first become aware of Sam?
12 years ago. When I think I was on the radio talking about my MBA.
Yeah.
And we were in the green room up the tower, and Sam came in, or Sam was already in there, can't remember which.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off right away.
Right.
You know, when you know there's something in this friendship, and it's just developed. It's become strong. Like everything, it's matured and grown stronger.
What about from your point of view, Sam? You know, being involved with somebody like Liverpool Heartbeat. I know I'm sounding like, hey, Liverpool Heartbeat and that, but I mean, I know what these guys do. What's it like from your point of view, being recognised as somebody that would be a phenomenal asset to these guys?
Well, first of all, I just want to say Robin is very inspirational, and is somebody who can speak to anyone. And I believe if there's a lion in this room, Robin will find a way to speak to that lion. And that's what happened when we met over 10 years ago. We are actually at the radio station in the green room. So I've just finished and you were going in. And then he saw me. For whatever reason, he came to me and said, oh, what do you do? I was there with a tennis player from Africa. And so I was just introducing them to Liverpool because they were playing at the Liverpool International. But also for me to be involved with Robin is a blessing in disguise, because I love to help people. And my whole life, like I said, has been, you know, torment and with all these things that happen with the war. And to see the passion that Robin have for helping, you know, this great city of Liverpool. And today, for example, we've gone to visit the John Holly, you know, statue.
Right.
Which,
just before we go any further, you better explain for the benefit of those people who don't know who John Holly is.
Well, we've just made a small video. Hopefully you'll show it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was down at the John Holly statue.
Okay. Well, I think we've got that video. So let's have a quick look at that video. That's your edit point there. Just take the edit point and say, and then we'll come back off the back of that if we watched it.
Yeah.
Well, that was fascinating. I mean, you know, for the benefit of people who didn't know who the guy was, then obviously that is a great indication. So coming back to that situation, you know, you've been on about John Holly, so we now explain who John Holly is. Let's get back to what we were talking about with Sam.
Yeah, well, Sam's. If you look at some of the photographs, maybe we can put them up. You know,
yeah.
Sam said to me, 2 weeks ago. I'm up at, or maybe 3 weeks ago, now,
Yeah.
4 weeks ago. I've been invited to give medals out at these single amputees, Everton in the community, and Ghana. So I said, I'd love to come with you. I said, have a word with Steve Johnson. Make sure I'm invited. And we went over there, we watched the game. Sam presented the medals and I had a meal with them. It was really nice. And a funny little story about that, I didn't know at the time, but they were staying in the Scarisbrick Hotel up in Southport, and two of them went for a walk and got lost. And the local people directed them to our hotel. We have a hotel up in Southport for homeless people. And they ended up staying in our hotel. They got a free bed for the night, free cooked breakfast, a shower, and a packed lunch.
Wow.
But the two of them had lost the two guys had lost their passport, so the police got involved. So they had to traced it back, and we were with them the night before.
Yeah.
We didn't know, you know. So, yeah, there's lots of crossovers and different things. And, you know, there's many things Sam and I are going to do in the future. And, you know, it's okay to talk off record. You know, as a businessman, I've supported Sam with a film he's trying to make about his life.
All right, okay. What would the film be about?
The film, there's a documentary titled How Tennis Saved My Life, the same title as my book. So I will say again, Robin gracefully has helped us to get fund to take a cameraman to Sierra Leone to follow me, to follow my journey, go to where I was born in the slum in Tembe Town. And everything that happened, where my friend was shot, where I was during the war, where I played tennis, and the people I grew up with, we went to my school and, you know, and things like that. And then he also followed me while I was doing all the national TV program and radio to see, you know, how did I come from that situation to going back and running my foundation, which Robin also supports my foundation, and we've support educational program, taking the John Hawley and the Liverpool Heartbeat, you know, magazine to schools, which unfortunately we're going to need about 100,000 for the kids, but we only got few. So, so yeah, it's always been, it's been really, really good. Like I said, with the Liverpool Heartbeats and my documentary, which hopefully if we get all the funding and help, it will be edited and that will go on to Netflix. So, you know, one of the big companies aiming to get that out for Christmas, which tells a lot about my story, the war, tennis, growing up in that kind of background and what it takes, and then what I'm doing today in terms of working with children and motivational speaking and traveling the world. So, yeah.
What's your mission? If somebody said you got a mission in life, because I mean you're a very driven kind of individual. You got purpose.
Yeah.
If somebody was to define what your mission in life would be, what would you tell them?
My mission, my purpose in life is to motivate and uplift people. And this is something I find out with my story. I'm able to do that to get people to listen and understand, and also help people to believe in themselves. Because I've been through the rough of the roughest, you know, things you can ever imagine in this life. So my mission here is to help as many people as possible. Because we've seen where sometimes I've been to places where young children have completely lost hope. You know, when I was in West Africa, I visited 10 countries end of last year and 10,000 miles. And I was in Nigeria and I'm doing tennis. It was a girl who was 16 and it was a birthday. So she finished and she came up to me and said, Coach, in my entire life, this is the first time somebody has actually gave me hope to continue to do tennis, to live, to see that you've come from all this adversity and you managed to make it, but not just that, but to come back here, spend your own money and time, and ask people in the Western world to help you, to come and help us. He said, I'm going to be surely do better with my life. So I think for me, that's the gift. It's the same that Liverpool Heartbeat is doing, the same that Robin is doing. You know, sometime in life, I think we just too particular about ourselves and then we forget other humanity. And I remember growing up where children were just left to fend for ourselves. And because of this, you end up with the wrong people, the wrong friends, the wrong, you know, I was fortunate enough to find tennis and passion and continue to do that. So my mission is to help uplift people, is to help bring that hope, you know, to people that if I can do it from the slum of Sierra Leone to travel the whole world to, you know, meet people like Robin, to meet some of the greatest tennis players. And now I'm coaching and working with professional players, you know, around the world. If anybody would have told me that as a child growing up in Sierra Leone, I would have thought they've lost the plot. You know, so my mission is to use my, you know, struggles and everything to tell people if I can do it from Sierra Leone, from the slum, definitely, especially here in England, where we have a lot of young people who are struggling mentally, to tell them that you can do this even 10 times better.
So the question I've got to ask here, me and Robin got to know this. Are we going to see a Wimbledon champion one day trained by you?
Yes, that's the prayer, because I have a player actually who I'm sure will be at your podcast here when he's here in June. So he's the one I've been traveling with for 6 years now, Elijah Poriski from the United States. And the reason why I'm travel a lot with this kid is because not only is he talented, but to see a Western kid that disciplined, respectful, willing to work. Yeah. And I remember last year, before we went to the tour in America, we were in France and Slovenia, and then we end up in Barcelona an extra week because they wouldn't let me to the States, because I have to have a letter which I end up getting from the Olympic Committee. But this kid, I was there, we were training 7 hours a day. And I remember one day we trained, after 7 hours, I was tired, and we're in the car driving back to the hotel, and he said, "Coach," he said, "can we go to the Olympic Park and do another hour?" I'm like, wow. I've never had a kid ask hungry. Me this kid is completely. So we went to the Olympic Park. We end up doing 2 hours. And I look at him and say, when we go to America, you're going to be punishing a lot of players. And that's exactly what happened in Texas. People were players who were like 5, 6 years older than him. Halfway through the match, they go like, "Coach, I don't know what you do with him, but I had enough with this kid." So he definitely have the talent, and I'm following him because he has a mentality like me. He wants it. He wants to be a professional player. And this kid, I believe, one day will do some good thing in Wimbledon.
Robin, you might end up in a royal box at
Can't wait
to meet him.
Yeah,
that's it. Listen, guys, we're out of time for this particular podcast, but I think we've already scratched the surface with Sam, so we need to get you in again so we can go further. Robin, finally, if I can just come to you. If people want to find out more about Liverpool Heartbeat, perhaps maybe some of the events that's coming up and they're not too distant, that people can get involved in, how can they do that?
They get on the website, www.liverpoolheartbeat.co.uk. But Jim, Sam's just mentioned about Life a Roller Coaster Ride. Well, we've just funded some young people with disabilities, and they're doing a play, and it's called a roller coaster. Life's a Roller Coaster, and it's based on the play or the film, Our Day Out.
Oh yeah, Willie Russell.
Yeah, well, it's going to be on the 1st of May at the Valley Studios in Chilwell Valley Road.
Oh yeah, Lee Valley. Yeah,
Lee Valley, and it's run by Nicola Broadley and her mum Carol, and it's the people from an electric apple company. They're doing it. We've funded the theatre for them, and we said whatever takings you get on the night, put back into your organisation. Wow. So that's one of the things we're doing in the future.
Brilliant. Guys, thank you so much. I've enjoyed your company. I'm looking forward to our next Liverpool Heartbeat, Reaching Out, Reaching You podcast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I'll just say there's lots of other volunteers. They've got very different stories from Sam, but their life's been a roller coaster ride.
We're going to hear them. Yeah. We're going to hear them.
So, thanks very much, Roy.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.